Welcome to Life of a Founder. Our goal here is to give you an inside look at the experiences of small business owners who have started, operated, and grown a business from the ground up. We strongly believe that there's no better way to learn than by listening to the stories of others. So whether you're already an entrepreneur or dreaming of becoming one in the future, we are sure you'll gain valuable insights from every episode. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the man behind the mic, our host, Matthew Sumter.
It seems like every time I was able to let go of something, the business would double in size.
Hey everyone, welcome to Life of a Founder. I'm Matthew Sumter, and I'd like to introduce you to my guest, Justin Morris, the founder of Armor Security. So before we get into our conversation, though, give our listeners one piece of advice that you'd give to someone wanting to start their own business.
Start small and scale from there. Yeah, once you have an idea, find a way to fund it yourself. Make sure that it's a viable option, something that people want, and then build it up from there.
Yeah, a lot of what you hear these days is, go get investors and you got to go big from the beginning. But yeah, probably makes a lot more sense to start small and make sure it's going to work. I'd just like you to tell me your story from your point of view. Let's start with some of the basics. How old are you now? When did you get started? And, where to go from there?
Yeah, I'm 39 this year. And I started the business when I was 19, so almost 20 years now.
Oh, wow.
Having done this. And as a 19, 20-year-old, I just got lucky, was in kind of a home electronics installation business for a small company, a father-son company, and got a call from a local franchisee who owned Taco Bell's. They owned about 200 at the time, and they were being charged extra for someone to travel to Western Arkansas to do their installs for camera systems. And so they called me up and asked me if I would be interested in doing 20 installs for them. And I said, yeah, of course. It was easily the best money I was making at the time. I think I was making $10 an hour, which was good money for college,
yeah.
But just a little bit above minimum wage at the time. And I think my first installs, I was making like $850 per install. So for 20 installs, I was able to do 2 a day. Got done in 2 weeks and then went back to work. And they called me up in another week or so and said, hey, you did 20 installs in 2 weeks. Our national company's doing 3 a week. Do you want to just do the rest of the company? And so overnight, I started a business and went from 20 locations to 200 installs. And
wow, that's pretty amazing. Were you totally on your own at that point, or you weren't working for your current company doing these? These were on the side.
I quit immediately.
Yeah, this was totally on the side, and they just picked you up from there. Very nice.
Yeah. I did not follow the advice that I gave at the top, and just kind of jumped headlong into it. And by the time I got done with all the initial installs, because it was a fast food restaurant, there's different contaminants that are in the air, and so cameras needed to be cleaned and repositioned and whatnot. And so it immediately generated a service business afterwards. And what was really cool is that this company was on a growth pattern, and over the last 20 years have added another 500 locations on top of those 200. And I've been able to grow with them and be a part of that. And it's opened me up to being able to build a company over the last 20 years. And
so 20 years, wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever have the idea to become an entrepreneur, to start your own business, or it just kind of fell in your lap, or was that something that was on your horizon?
Yeah, I've always been entrepreneurial, I suppose. Was always scheming and planning, and my father always had some sort of side business. For as long as I can remember, he always worked 2 jobs, one of them being a typical 45 to 50 hour a week job, and the other some weird like eBay business or roasting coffee beans to sell out of the garage. And and so I always had this model at home of working multiple jobs and trying to find a break in that entrepreneurial vein.
Yeah.
And so
he was kind of the serial entrepreneur, always looking for something.
yes. And I also found that I hated working for people. Like I didn't understand if there wasn't any work to be done, why I still needed to work. And so whenever I started my business, I got paid to work, which sounds intuitive, but when there was nothing to do, I didn't work. And so there was a lot of travel time, a lot of work time, week to week, going and driving to, central Oklahoma or central Missouri to do these service calls. But, for a college kid, if there was no work to be done, that's a great job.
Yeah. During that growth over the 20 years, obviously you've gone from almost nothing to a very successful large company. But I mean, what were some of the challenges with that growth that you've seen over the years?
Yeah. So there's many small business traps, I think, that are interesting stepping stones that every small business has to work through. And it seems like every time I was able to let go of something, the business would double in size. And so, I was driving 70,000 miles a year, covering from Indianapolis down to Dallas regularly. And when I got married, my wife kind of said, hey, look, you can't drive this much. And so I was ready to walk away from the business if I couldn't figure something out. And so I wound up dabbling on the internet and finding some work market boards and then trying to figure out how to subcontract the work. And when I did, it allowed me to manage all the work instead of going and doing all the work. And in that time, whether it was hiring my first employee, hiring our second employee, hiring a salesman, hiring, bringing on different clients in different verticals and trying to figure out each one of those little problems, it's really opened the door for more opportunities and more opportunities. So
nice. I mean, how hard was that for you to give up that control to enable the company to grow?
At different times, it was different levels of difficulty. So my first time hiring a subcontractor, I drove to Springfield, Missouri to babysit the guy that was doing the work because I was so distrusting of other people and was very afraid the quality was going to suffer tremendously. And so there was this moment where it was real hard to trust other people to do the work that I was doing at a very high level. And even to this day, we still have to work through quality issues at times because it's never going to be as good as it was when I was doing it. But now we also manage 7,000 systems and 4,000 locations, and I could never do that by myself. So there's a huge trade-off, but taking that step kind of in faith of thinking, if I have other people do the work that I can do, we could do more work. And how do we implement the quality control systems so that we're still providing good quality product and services out to customers?
Yeah, let's step back a minute. I think you've kind of alluded to it, but what exactly does your business do overall?
Yeah, so we sell and install commercial surveillance and alarm systems and access control. So we do, from beginning to end, we do the sales, the installation, the service, and the monitoring of all of these systems.
And you're based out of the Kansas City area?
Based out of Kansas City.
Subcontract out?
Yeah, we subcontract out. We're currently in 3 countries and in all 50 states.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many employees do you have at this point?
We have 13 W-2 employees, and we hire approximately 2,200 subcontractors a year.
Wow. All right. How do you personally measure the success of your company? Is that financial? Is it, the employees you're helping? Is it, what makes a successful business to you?
To me, it's the ability to provide quality jobs for people. Whether that's as a subcontractor, we pride ourselves on being a good company to work for, pays tax on time. We're not overbearing. Our scopes of work are written very clearly so that the subcontractor can get in, do the job, and then get out and check out in a timely manner. But then also with the W-2 employees, I really focus on the idea that this may not be their last stop in their career. And so investing into their education, ensuring that they are getting all the tools and equipment that they need to do their job and grow professionally, so that whenever they do decide to move on to the next job, they can look back at their time with Armor and know that we invested heavily in them. And to me, that's my purpose and mission. The company does well financially, which is a nice byproduct, but at the same time, we don't intentionally track every penny, because we don't have investors. We don't have people that we're trying to squeeze every nickel out of. And so by not having that, I don't have to squeeze every nickel out of every employee.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, along those lines, you were talking about not having investors. So you bootstrapped this from scratch. You have maintained 100% ownership. Is that correct? Haven't ever taken any partners, anything like that?
No partners, bootstrap, still to this day, bootstrapping projects. Very nice. It's one of the funny projects that I've taken on this year is financing major projects with major companies, including, a company like Yum Brands. They have 18,000 restaurants across the world that we're doing work in for them. Financially funding the company, bootstrapping can only go so far. And so, been able to work with a couple of different bank partners, but ultimately I still retain 100% of the business. Nice.
All right. Well, tell me as much or as little as you want regarding financials, but that's the kind of thing people who are thinking about starting businesses want to know. I mean, you hear about people who build up a business and flip it, sell it in a few years, make hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's not the reality for 99.9% of the people. So can you kind of give us an idea of, kind of the financials, or at least net profit margin, or how that kind of works out with your business?
Yeah. So when I started the business, the first year, I think I made $50,000 gross. And
is that working by yourself on your own?
Working by myself, for myself. I lived out of that money. And so, but I wouldn't really know. Unfortunately, I'm just not a very details person, so I can't tell you what my expenses were, what my net profit was at that time.
Yeah.
But was able to live off of that. And then the next year, made a little bit more money, because I think the installs were split over the 2 years, those 200. And so I think I probably made 70,000 the next year. And from that time to today, we were projected to make close to $5.5 million this year, gross income.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then over the next 10 years, we're projecting to make somewhere between $15 and $20 million a year.
Some solid growth.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so our business model has changed quite a bit from just being a service company to finding ways to create recurring revenue monthly, and which is kind of the dream for most business owners, is how do you get that paycheck coming in without having to work? So every system we sell today has a monthly monitoring fee associated to it. So we work real hard internally to do all the health monitoring, all the alarm monitoring, and ensure that we are, with new installs coming and growing, it's a different model than me traveling around doing a lot of service work year over year. And what's interesting is I've been with the Taco Bell franchisee for nearly 20 years now. We've got a couple other very large companies that we do work for, and at a time we only had maybe 3 large companies that we were doing work for, because our model is we don't do any residential work. We only do commercial, but you also have to have be more of a franchisee model. So 25 plus locations in multiple states is where we have found our niche. And so these 3 or 4 large customers were really good, but they were just in the service model flow, because we'd done all the installs, waiting for them to turn those systems over. And then we decided, hey, it makes more sense to start adding more business on. So if we can get into these big buying co-ops, so like for Yum Brand, for example, they use a buying co-op for all of their supplies and stores. And 3 years ago, we got in as a preferred vendor through their buying co-op, and that's allowed us to start servicing more smaller franchisees, but still be able to offer the same volume pricing. And that has taken us in essence from 2 million to 4 million to the future growth of the company.
Yeah. And are you looking to diversify into other either industries or companies? I mean, do you feel kind of like you have all your eggs in one basket regarding one customer, and that's kind of a potential hazard there?
Yeah, we cover quick service restaurants, we do small retail, and then we do big box retail. And so there's a lot of potential for growth in each one of those verticals. We don't do any government work. We don't do any residential work. And there's not many things that we wouldn't look at doing. We're starting in with a C-store, convenience store group, Travel Plaza. By the end of the year, we'll have contracts in place to be working with them as well. And so that's a new vertical. One of the things I love about the job is that each new customer presents its own challenges. And, we've grown through having cookie cutter systems, right? So if you've got 300 locations, our goal is that every location has the same set of equipment so that we can easily service it. You know what you have on the back end. And so if a camera goes down, it's an easy replacement. We don't have to dig through 10 years of history to try to figure out what's out there. We know, and it all works the same. So that's every new partner we bring on has its own hurdles, but they're all very similar. So
very nice. You talked a little bit about, almost potentially walking away just because you didn't necessarily know how to grow at that point on your own. I mean, was there ever beyond that time, was there ever any kind of burnout or times when you thought about just walking away or selling the business or trying to do something different?
Yeah, I'll go back to your 99.9%, right? Like I don't know that I realized that I was going to do this as a career. It was always just a job. And so I always kind of thought one day I'd be doing something different, but 20 years later, I'm still here and look at it more as a career now. But as with any job, there's definitely been times where it was difficult or hard, or if somebody would have come in. Well, actually, I don't know that I've ever been interested in trying to grow a business to sell it. I've always had the line of thought that the people that have been with the company and have helped me grow the company are the investors. And so paying them back over time with salaries and benefits is the goal, and offering them stable careers until they're ready to retire or whatever they plan to do. So,
okay.
But as far as burnout, today I probably spend less time in the office than I've ever spent. And so I'm at a point now where I'm more or less reaping the benefits of, hundreds of hours out on the road. And
yeah. And I was going to ask that, what is your hands-on right now, or what's a week look like in your job? Yeah.
So there are maybe two primary tasks that I manage on the week-to-week basis. And that is I have a group of upper-level managers that I manage, and they handle all the day-to-day tasks of the business. And then I do all of the bookkeeping and invoicing for the company still. Okay. And hopefully by the end of the year, that's not the case. But that's my week-to-week, is running through invoices, all the finance, and then managing managers.
So you still pretty much see every piece of, or every invoice that goes across the board, and you still have a very good pulse, feel of the pulse of what's going on every day. So
yeah. And I think that's important, and it was a growing thing to be able to step back and work on the business and not in the business. I think that's an entrepreneurial buzz phrase, and so developing that and trying to figure out how to take my hands out of every decision and trust that the people that are working for me are making the best decisions for the company to move it forward. And, I don't know that there's not a decision that doesn't get made that someone doesn't come ask my opinion on. But one of the skills I've had to learn over the last 2 years is the ability to give advice, but not be offended when someone doesn't take my advice. And I've got a lot of really good people that work for me, so it kind of makes it easier. Okay. We're all in good alignment, and we all worked together really hard on the mission statement and are always able to bring it back to that.
Well, you kind of hit on it there, but are there any other skills or traits that you think an entrepreneur should have that will help make their company successful?
I think all entrepreneurs have a similar skill set in that they're problem solvers. And that's what kind of drives people into their own business, is that they see a need and need to fill that need, or develop a product or have a service that someone else is wanting or needing. And whether it's a better way to go about doing it or just a consistent way of doing it, that idea of problem solving never seems to go away. And so in today's world, it looks very different for me than being a technician out in the field. While I would always love to be out there and installing cameras and pulling cables, once a year is great at this point. And the problem solving skills of how to get, X, Y, or Z done is a different set of skills, and it's something that's always evolving, which I think is a second skill set is the ability to evolve and adapt as markets change, as people come and go.
So long term, I know you kind of acted like you don't really think about selling, you don't think about that much, that sort of thing, but are you looking to turn over more control, keep ownership, move into more of an advisory position, or what are your thoughts as of now?
So I'll be 39 this year. By the time I'm 45, the plan is to have a board of directors, be president of the board, be completely removed from any of the day-to-day or week-to-week operations of the business, and sell the company back 51% to the employees.
Oh, nice.
And so we currently have some profit-sharing accounts set up for employees with tenure, and I guess that are vested into the company. And I mean, there's probably a dollar amount that would be obscene enough to accept an offer on, but at this point, it is what we're building towards is just to be profitable so that we can share that with the employees. And then, in our personal lives, we like to be very generous with what we have as well. And so creating the profits to be generous is the exit plan.
Very nice. Well, I'm sitting here in your office and I'm looking at a wall of books behind you. So, are there any, do you listen to podcasts? Do you read books? Obviously you read books, but is there any specific recommendations you have as far as things that people should read or look into?
So my advice is that if you want to be an entrepreneur, there's more information out there in today's world than there's ever been. It's not necessarily through a college degree. If you can start a garage, fix cars, if that's your passion, there's no need to go to college to do that. You can take an online course on accounting for very cheap through QuickBooks and learn everything that you need to know. And, I think more than anything, if you know what your weaknesses are, you can supplement that pretty quickly through any book or online course.
Yeah, I agree. Quickly. Yeah, in today's world, experience is more important than education. So,
YouTube's helpful.
Yeah, YouTube, you can learn anything. So, also, what I see on your wall is some medals and items. So, from runs and things like that. So, what do you do with your off time? What do you like to do?
So currently, my favorite thing is to adventure race. If it's not family related, let me throw that caveat in. I've got 2 little boys that I enjoy spending time with, and an adventurous wife that we enjoy mountain biking. But I really enjoy adventure racing and just going out trying to get lost in the woods and figure out how to get out. So,
all right. Is there anything else you want to share or advice you have, or Does that pretty much cover it?
I think that covers it for this session.
All right. Well, that was awesome. I mean, thanks for taking the time to tell us your story. How can the listeners find out more about your business or get connected with you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, or our website is armor.security.
Armor, ARMOR.security.
Yep.
All right.
We're not a .com, so don't put a .com on there.
All right. And that's Justin Morris on LinkedIn. All right. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Life of a Founder. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any of our upcoming episodes. And if you have any friends or family members who would enjoy the show, please share the link with them. We truly believe that small businesses are the lifeblood of our communities, so we encourage you to take that first step and start your journey toward business ownership.